It's important to actually stand in the places of history, to feel the feeling of the people that were here and to understand their stories. When you talk about Fishing River raising 40 feet, you can't really imagine it unless you're standing here.
This is where American history starts in so many ways. Christopher Columbus traveled on these waters. How incredible.
We invite you to come along with us when we go visit the Mayflower and when we take a tour through Washington, D.C. and then on to the Kirtland Temple. It's very unique. One of the questions you may be asking is, why is this important? We can just read about history, we can watch a movie on TV, and those are good things. It helps give us perspective. But there's nothing quite the same as standing here, seeing the width of the river and how much it grew, and just being in history. You stand here and you look out at that point and you look across. It's so big, it's so magnificent. It's really hard to imagine how this whole thing formed in so short a time.
Eruption happened and it blew up. This silica was blown out in a secondary explosion, all on this west and south side, okay? So this is very important that this crater did not just blow up one time. It had multiple eruptions.
If this Earth was ever a molten planet, which we know it's not through the universal model, all those metals would have sunk deep down in that magma.
And remember that no matter how many people were on the planet, no matter where they come from, every single human being that's ever lived on the planet must receive the gospel before this earth can fulfill its measure of its creation.
We are literally walking on the ground where patriarchs walked. This is the place where Adam and Eve lived. This is the place where Adam gathered together all of his posterity. This is the place where altars were built, even Nephi altars, we know from the prophet Joseph Smith.
As men were inspired, they began to be righteous, to become sons of God, and they were inspired.
Yeah.
And it was given to men to write by the spirit of inspiration. And then they were supposed to take that information and teach their children. So you have these three different organizations that kind of hark back to the one leader, Joseph Smith, the prophet. So the Lord is going to redeem Zion. And they are going to build the temple there, but it's going to be under the direction of Joseph Smith.
This is one of the most sacred places on the earth, actually, if not the most sacred. In a revelation given to Joseph Smith, the Lord identified far west, and specifically the temple site, as he said, the ground on which thou standest is most holy.
Right here in 1834, on Zion's camp, Joseph Smith was camped down there by the river. The Zion's camp men were coming across. He climbed up here, called for a shovel, and dug down and uncovered the bones of a man named Zelph.
So how do we combat false ideologies? The secret weapon is the Book of Mormon.
Joseph and Hiram Smith sealed their testimony with their blood June 27th of 1844 in Carthage, Illinois. We're at the Arabia, and we want to talk about why it's important to be here to understand. This ship sunk in 1856. This is the same year that there were 5 handcart companies that left for Utah. And this is a good example of what they came with. The people that came west were sophisticated. They were very competent, industrious people. We're at the area where the Martin and Willie Handcart Company crossed the Sweetwater. We're in Martin's Cove. And just a little bit up here and around this mountain is where they actually camped. In the winter, they got stuck in the winter of 1856, and it was cold and miserable. This river was icy cold, frozen over in parts, and they had to cross it.
The story of the flood occurs in every culture around the world. It's not just their story, it's my story. And It's your story.
How do you earn your bread? By the sweat of your brow. And that's a representation of two things, right? The sweat is water and salt. The two things that Christ says, I am the living water and ye are the salt. Petrified wood, a product of the flood, is like the rainbow made into rock, where we can actually touch it and feel it. It's a mark of the flood that serves no purpose other than just to beautify our world. It is truly the covenant of the rainbow in rock.
Because of the confusing world we live in, we need to ask ourselves, can we believe Christ? And the answer is absolutely yes. We can believe Christ. Because Joseph Smith, we have an inspired translation of the Bible. And so all of our answers and all of the world's answers are in Genesis.